Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniatures. It's Friday, which means it's time to bring you another obscurity in literature. Today we have the exclamation mark. Well, yeah, it is an exclamation mark, but it's the guy who's exclaiming it. It is none other than the American Barbarian by Tom Scioli. So yeah, this originated as a webcomic, I believe, and I first came across Tom's work in Godland and some of his online stuff, and he had such a strong Kirby vibe that I just could not get enough. And I believe this was one of the first independently published books that he did all on his own, and it is a treat. If you are of the right mindset, I guess I should preface it with that. So, if you're a fan of Jack Kirby's 70s output, basically mostly Kamandi and the New Gods, I think you will really enjoy this book. It opens up with the Seven Brothers here, and one of the coolest names I've ever come across in a piece of literature ever, Jimothy. Bobbert's a good one, but we've used Bobbert for various online and fighting game character names for quite a few years, but Jimothy, I will admit I have been guilty of using the name Jimothy in online games before. So, of course, I will deny it and vehemently argue that it isn't me if you ever come across a Jimothy online, so just be aware. As is any good Kirby-esque book, you have to open up with that big double-page splash, and you can see just the Kirby-ness of the artwork. And it's what someone once described to me as almost an intentional crudeness, and that's not to knock on the artwork in any way, shape, or form. It is very intentionally, I think, trying to channel that 70s Kirby vibe, which to me I absolutely enjoy. You have the villain of the piece, TWO TANK OMEN, who literally has two giant tanks for feet. Because why not? And the villains, obviously, just very New Gods, apocalypsean in their look and feel. Lots of big splash pages. And I love the intentional yellowness off-coloring of the pages. It does give it a very 70s comic book vibe. So one of the things, as the story progresses and you have various bad guys showing up, it almost feels like it can't make up its mind as to what kind of a story it's going to tell. Oh yeah, there's also robotic dinosaurs, but there's also real dinosaurs, and the real ones are good, but the robots are bad. And there's also time travel, because why not? Yeah, it's out there. But as I was saying, it's almost of two minds in the fact that on one hand, it wants to have almost like this intentional, ironic, sarcastic edge to it, but then there's others where they just pile on the exposition like a Kirby comic of the 70s would have. There was a page earlier, I know. Just piles of text all over the page, setting things up. That to me is very much a Kirby trait. And it's interesting because there's times where you have a lot of experimental stuff going on with the layout of the page. Very much in the vein of Kirby's collages in some of those late 60s issues of like the Fantastic Four, all the various New God stuff from DC. There's just some very interesting techniques going on with the art. And it's just really nice. It is a bit thick. I want to say the book clocks in about 200-something pages. However, it is a really quick read. For some reason, this really reminds me of something that Kirby drew. And maybe it's just my imagination. One of the other things that it really gives me a lot of parallels to is the fact that the whole post-apocalyptic barbarian angle, and especially that piece right there, gives off a major Thundar the Barbarian vibe. And if you aren't aware, the fact that Thundar did actually have Kirby do some work on it, mostly incidental bad guys and villains. Alex Toffa actually, I think, did most of the hero work. But again, just some really nice, interesting layouts. Things happen. And then we have swords that slash with rainbows. And the last time I saw that was probably when I played that one PS2 game that had Gact in it, where he was a wuxia hero doing just that, swinging swords that made rainbows. So yeah. Evil Queen, pinups. It's just, the story starts to move at a mile a minute. Oh, we've even got our Thundar looking dude here. But yeah, it's really out there. So if you're a fan of just off-the-wall comics, I don't think you would be very disappointed in that regard. Like I said, there's dinosaurs as well. Some nice big splash pages, and it does read pretty quickly. While there were all those bits of expository text early on, it really disappears as the story goes. Exactly. Says it all right there. That's my feeling. Like I said, it really feels like it wants to be of two minds. The United States of Barbaria. It wants to be very intentionally ironic, but then it also wants to play it up super seriously. And I think that is the intention. So I think if you go into a book like this with the right mindset, it definitely will have its appeal. I'd say this is also one of the more calmer Tom Scioli books. If you ever get a chance, you want to read something crazy, check out his G.I. Joe versus Transformers comic, where it just feels like a bunch of 7-year-old kids playing with their toys in a very stream of consciousness style storytelling, which is absolutely enjoyable if you're in the right mindset for it, just like this book. But I think for fans of Kirby's work, obviously, if you dig the post-apocalyptic stuff, sarcastic, ironic comics, you'll find a lot to love here with our American Barbarian. I'm not actually sure where to find this these days, so I will put a link to Tom's own art website blog place, and hopefully at least that might be able to point you better in the right direction than myself at this moment. With that said, this has been High Lord Tamerlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching. We'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.